Hey everybody, take 17 on my allegorical movie review. I'm going to try to get this in one take. We'll see how it goes. Point is, so this is again about Mojin, the Lost Legend, which I realize I'm now trying to do a comparative analysis. Comparative, just for academias, that between this one and Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones movie, which you maybe have seen. And I think that's a more appropriate comparison, at least more appropriate for me, because that's the one I watched, to this movie, which they're both movies about like Tomb Raiders, you know? It's just let me just like start off with this whole thing. Okay, so Mojin, I gave you the other reviews. They're Tomb Raiders. They're there to try to find some things in the tomb, and just like in Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, he starts off. He's going to raid this tomb. He's going to raid this tomb, and he's going to grab this like little idol, and what he does is he takes the idol, but he gets it taken from him by his arch archaeologist, arch nemesis archaeologist, Belloc. I don't remember his full name, but his name is Belloc, and that sets up the big struggle. Now I know that Mojin doesn't have this kind of like direct arch enemy parallel, but that's really it's interesting. I think maybe it's something new. Maybe it's something about like the Chinese movie that the struggle within that movie is within the group, actually. Like it's the three Mojin Xiaowai, and it's their struggle to keep their group together. That's really interesting now that I think about it. And in the other case, Indiana Jones's great struggle is against his like arch nemesis, right? That's what I say. His arch archaeologist nemesis, this guy Belloc. And so I'll just point out, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Okay, so talking about Mojin, right? So the Mojin movie, right? Is like I say, it's about the internal strife. Okay, so it's Wu Bai and Wang. I don't remember his name. Quan Shin, maybe. And Shirley Young, who are all, it says they constantly cite this quote of like, united we stand, divided we fall. And it follows their struggle, like from the beginning they're united, they're like raiding tombs with great success, and then some falling out happens, and Hubai like tries to give up the game. And of course, it started to reveal over time that like he and Shirley Young have a serious like tension in their relationship based on his like having slept with her and not having pursued a relationship with her ever since that. We'll get into that further later, but the big thing here is that the main struggle of that movie is their internal conflict within the group. Okay, and now, in comparison to Indiana Jones, you have this dynamic of okay, so Indiana Jones, he's out there like striving to like capture new artifacts for the discipline of archaeology, the virtuous discipline of archaeology, and he's confronted constantly. Apparently, I don't know. He's confronted by this archaeologist nemesis, Belloc, who takes the things from him that he has rightfully, struggled to get. And so there's a very interesting conversation within Indiana Jones that I'll have to point out, which is, they say, Belloc says, they're sitting down in a cafe, and he says, we're very much alike, Indiana. Archaeology is our religion. We are both fallen from the pure faith. Which is notable because, both of them are clearly like raiding tombs, and then they literally, Indiana Jones is like selling artifacts to the museums That's what you see in the movie. And when Marcus comes in first, and he's like, "Oh, I have some really good artifacts here. Like, you got to be worth at least an airplane, a flight to Marrakesh, or something." So they're both selling artifacts and stealing from tombs and stuff in swashbuckling fashion. And yeah, Belloc notes that he is a shadowy reflection of Indiana Jones, which is very like things that happen in like, for example, like The Dark Knight. Okay, so not to make a huge jump off here, but like in The Dark Knight, you know how like Joker talks about himself as being like very similar to Batman? It's the very same thing. It's like, oh, we're just acknowledging that like Belloc is the foil to Indiana Jones. It's like very self-conscious kind of meta reference, actually. But he points out that it would only take a notch for Jones to become like Belloc. Just something to push him out of the light into the darkness, which for Belloc is working with the Nazis to find the Ark of the Covenant, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's okay. And of course, this is all to note that obviously this movie is made from a Hollywood standpoint because United States and Britain are clearly not evil. They are the virtuous nation states of this movie. And it highlights this aspect of political ideology that's like embedded in Indiana Jones that is nowhere acknowledged in Roger Ebert's review of Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. He's like, oh, this is just a great like fun-filled adventure, and he doesn't acknowledge any of the political ideology, but it's very clear to like Mark Dujsik that who later he writes for RogerEbert.com about Mojin, the Lost Legend, and he says like this is really just like a movie that's got a bunch of political ideology in it to like thing. One can't help but feel that ideological arm reaching out for you in it. Yeah, so they're everywhere. I mean, the whole point clearly here is that Indiana Jones is an embodiment of like the Western fantasy, and then the Mojin Shaowai are like part of the Chinese Eastern fantasy, maybe. Yeah. So yeah. What else would I say? Oh, so there's other interesting elements. The Ark of the Covenant, I noted, is very much like the atom bomb. It's basically a parallel to the atom bomb in the real World War II struggle over this like super weapon that would like decimate enemies and bring the war to an end. So yeah, that's notable. So again, like following this this trend of like Indiana Jones as the hero, right? He actually I didn't watch it all the way through to the end. That would be an interesting comparison. I don't really need to do that in order to do this because there's an interesting part of the Mojin Shaowai which adopts. I don't know. To me, it adopts this Western trope, which is that like the hero of the movie has to pass through death in order to win them something back, in order to save some people or win the day. I don't know. They have to sacrifice themselves, and it's a martyr complex thing that happens a lot in Western movies. Notably, one of which is in the best fashion I can imagine is Sharknado, in which the hero in that movie also has to like pass through death. You should watch that movie. I'm not going to spoil you how that happens, but it's definitely there. Just look for it at the end. Involves a shark and a chainsaw, I'm pretty sure. The thing is, this hero, Hubai, has to, at the very end of the movie, they realize that they're stuck under a lake. They're still stuck in this tomb, and he and his romantic comrade are stuck on top of this coffin, and they're kind of stuck there. And so he decides, in true, like, fascist fashion, to, like, grab her and put her back in the coffin and save her, basically. Like, save her, sacrifice himself in order to save her. Now that's the thing, is this weird coercive element. It's not weird, actually. It's not weird at all. There is a coercive element in his attempt to save her and be the martyr, because he is, like, trying to break out of this tomb, this cavern that they're stuck in, and so he forces his lover to go back into the coffin, and he will sacrifice himself in order to save her. And the entire time, she's in the coffin being like, no, hey, we promised that we would die together. This is not okay, man. And that's like a common thing throughout this movie is you find out that she, like, in their relationship, he's just like he breaks promises, and he's just like a huge, he's standoffish to her the entire movie, and he's ditched her, like, a number of times, and always to, like, have to save her again, and somehow through this whole process, he's coming to realize that he really truly loves her. So anyway, he does it. He just locks her up. He breaks through the thing, and it looks like he's dead. All of the other people rise up out of the surface of this lake, where the tomb is, and everybody thinks he's dead. His friend Wong dives back down and is like, "Oh, my bro! Oh, I couldn't even save my bro! Oh no!" So he's really upset about it. And then all of a sudden, sploosh! He comes back and he's there. He's alive. Boom! I came back from the death that I should have encountered, or that I should have gone to. I should be dead. But he gets up, he gets out of the thing, and he gives her a ring at the very end. So clearly you see, okay, there's the martyr thing going on. He's passed through the death, and the thing is, he comes back at the end, and that's the thing about these Western epics with the heroes and stuff, and it happens in a lot of Hollywood movies. The hero should be dead, and yet he doesn't die. It happens in Harry Potter, it happens in The Matrix, it happens probably in Star Wars too. I wouldn't doubt it at all. Almost. I mean, that'll be a different movie review, but it's in a lot of movies, and he's there at the end. Haha, I survived death. And just at the very end, he decides to propose to his religious comrade, or no, his tomb raiding comrade. He says, "Would you be willing to sublimate our comradeship to revolution in order to get married," essentially? And she's kind of like, "Are you serious? That's crazy!" And then she totally succumbs to, like, his proposal. And it's totally lame, right? Because it's like another appearance of this allegory, like, through I found out through Sylvia Plath. That's kind of known as, like, every woman adores a fascist. That's what she calls it, which is to say that, like, this guy is, like, ditched her, broken promises, like, forced her doing things, like, just done all kinds of terrible stuff, been just a bad partner the entire time. And now she's just, like, super ready to, like, jump into marriage with this guy who totally, betrays her on a regular basis. So it's a horrible example of, like, this trope that commonly appears in all these movies, just in literature and maybe in culture generally. So that's sad. And I don't know, I guess, is that it? I forgot to mention that. That happens in Indiana Jones, too. It's like the whole it's a whole thing between him and Marion. Roger Ebert talks about it. He says, she's the kind of girl... Well, to make a long story short, when they first met 10 years ago, Indiana Jones deflowered her, and that made her so mad at men that she moved to the mountains of Tibet, opened a bar, and started nightly drinking contests with the Sherpas. And she will never forgive him, almost. Ta-da! Because Indiana Jones goes on this epic adventure with her. And is really pleased to have her along with him. You know, saves her at various occasions. You know, puts her in danger, and also like forces her to stay in danger at certain occasions, so that he can like continue to find the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's just so many things wrong with that hero. Yeah, and again, I didn't watch Indiana Jones all the way to the end of it. As I recall, he doesn't have a quite so obvious like of a heroic sacrifice as Hubei does in this Mojin movie. But yeah, look for that martyr like story in many other places, because you know it's been done like a billion times ever since Christianity, before Christianity probably. You know, I don't claim to know that much about the allegories history. So yeah, that about wraps it up. I think 17 minutes of allegorical banter from me is enough for now. Yeah, I hope you really like watching this movie, and maybe rewatch Indiana Jones, and maybe start see some of these allegories in other places. I'll maybe do some other allegorical movie reviews sometime into the future. Well, this is Jez 3Prez signing off. Peace.